This episode is titled Where the Stars Are Scattered Thinly, which we learn has a cool meaning later in the episode, as we catch up with some of our favorite characters and see exactly what happens next in this unpredictable show. But first, do me a favor, if you're new here, please consider giving this channel a like and subscribe to keep up with our weekly FANdation analyses and breakdown, and enable notifications so you're able to watch these videos right after they publish in order to work with us to try to figure out the mystery of FANdation. This episode opens to an oddly morbid monologue from Gaal, explaining how we wouldn't be here if our parents never met. It's true, but a little morbid. We then see Polly and Constant waking up from their jump through space nap, and Constant heading into the back of the ship to wake Halber Mallow from where they had him secured for the jump. And my guy reminds me of Han Solo and Carbonite for some reason. They wake him up with Constant giving this guy googly eyes nonstop, especially when he takes off his shirt. Halber and Constant chat for a bit, with Halber briefly mentioning his time as one of the Scarlet Monks, and then showing Constant his 200-year-old bottle of wine. Constant can't help but flirt with Halber, and points out that he's somewhat of an optimist. Halber seems to flirt back a little, and start to game with Brother Constant, in which he will try his best to guess her real name. We then switch to the ship landing on Terminus, with Director Seth Cermak awaiting everyone's arrival and greeting everyone. Director Seth now seems to be the leading authority figure on Terminus now that Warden Yeager has died. It's also at this time that we learn that Brother Constant and Director Seth are father and daughter, which even surprises Halber. We then switch to Queen Sareth on Trantor, joking with her assistant Rue about how the royal seal is on everything in the palace. Tables, mirrors, and even the comb have the Cleonic symbol. Sareth is planning her day and comments about how she doesn't want to wear her pigments today in order to get a psychological advantage, and seem like she has her guard down. We then switch to Brother Dawn and Sareth out on a walk, and wait, what? Didn't I say Sareth was low-key flirting with Dawn when she touched his hand at dinner? Now she's out for a slow stroll with my guy and with her makeup off? What's interesting is that she even gives Brother Dawn some information about Brother Dusk that he didn't know, when she shares how Dusk and her assistant Rue had a tryst at some point in the past, when Dusk was still Brother Day and Rue was just a concubine. She also has a slick way of probing Dawn when she refers to Brother Dusk as his grandfather. Sareth, in my opinion, is doing absolutely everything she can to drive a wedge between the Cleons. And by isolating Brother Dawn and getting close to him while he's still young, it could be a big part of her plan. Dawn corrects Sareth that Dusk isn't his grandfather, but even gets him to admit how he feels that their whole Cleonic agreement sometimes feels strange to him too. And yo, the psychological warfare that Sareth is employing is incredible to watch. She's definitely trying to get this Brother Dawn to bend to her views on Brother Day and Brother Dusk. I feel like these two will have a romantic relationship at some point, similar to how the previous Brother Dawn was manipulated in Season 1, but a part of me also wonders if the Cleonic Empire learned from that experience or not. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Dawn then leads Sareth to a secluded grove, and it looks like a scene out of the Lost World Jurassic Park, with these super large trees that seem to all blend together. For real, this place is gorgeous. Sareth asks Dawn to ask whatever question he wanted to ask now that they have seclusion, but Sareth knows his question and asks it for him by stating that he wants to know if Sareth was behind the assassination attempt. She denies any involvement, but then asks if Dawn thinks Brother Day had her family killed. Dawn initially says no, but then asks, was there evidence? Sareth says there's no evidence, but considering the circumstances about how she was nowhere near the front of the line to lead Dominion, but here she is now on the verge of marrying Day to unite their kingdoms in a way that wouldn't have been possible if their family had survived, she considers all of this a little bit suspicious. Dawn tries to muster a defense for the Cleons, but admits that it's definitely possible. They then even established that they kinda sorta like each other, with Sareth seemingly forming a little alliance with Brother Dawn and sealing the deal with a handshake to always be truthful to each other. Sareth furthers her mind control on Dawn when she asks him why weren't they arranged to be married rather than Brother Day, since, they are the same man and all. Now, we've seen that these three Cleons don't tell each other everything, and we're continuing to see that master manipulator Sareth working her magic on Dawn in this scene. I really enjoyed this moment between these two, as Sareth is really trying her best to rip these three apart, but something tells me that we need to keep a closer eye on this Brother Dawn. I get the feeling he's not nearly as naive as she thinks he is. We then switch to Handmaiden Rue meeting up with Brother Dusk on that painting wall that we sometimes see the Cleons admiring. This time, Rue is staring at the wall with Brother Dusk meeting up with her, discussing how, as Day, he actually added some embellishments to the wall himself. The show then decides to zoom in and focus on this portion of the wall where it looks like a skinless man is sitting on the throne of the Empire? Like, they really take a moment to make sure that this gets our attention, and I have no idea what it is I'm looking at. When did a skinless man rule? And why is he skinless? Rue and Dusk then continue walking toward an area called Gossamer Court, where Brother Dusk confirms that he was the Cleon that bedded Rue in the past. Dusk also mentions how he never usually speaks to people after their memories are erased, and they have an interesting little moment when Rue mentions how things are changing and how he might be the last Brother Dusk and the first grandfather Cleon, with Dusk quickly countering by saying, if the union happens. And if Dusk wasn't already looking sus after the assassination attempt on Day, this definitely adds fuel to the fire. They discuss the upcoming union between the Queen and Brother Day some more before agreeing to watch the sex tape that Brother Dusk kept of his original encounter with Rue while he was still Brother Day. We then switch to a spaceship arriving at the planet Siwenna and see Bel Rios and his husband Glaywin on the bridge of their spaceship taking an initial assessment on the planet and its inhabitants. What happens next is Bel letting his team know that he and Glaywin are going to wing it down to the planet to begin their investigation. I don't know what I thought when I heard them say this, but I definitely didn't expect them to drop out of the sky without a parachute from orbit and use these Spider-Man wing glider things to safely land on the planet below. And shout out to Bel Rios for nailing the superhero landing in this scene. He would make Deadpool proud. They reunite on the planet and talk about how they need to make their way to the informant. Unfortunately, they have a package of supplies that they're supposed to take with them that, according to their scanners, is moving. They go to intercept the package, and we see them approach a familiar-looking group of locals, with at least one of these guys being someone we've seen in previous episodes. Bel tries to barter with them to get his equipment, and is even willing to buy his property back, but the locals are not trying to play nice and taunt Glaywin by telling him that they'd trade his equipment for like 6 of his pretty little teeth. Things continue to escalate until it reaches its inevitable conclusion of a fight when one of these guys hawks the most disgusting, phlegm-filled spit loogie right at Glaywin's pretty little face, and Bel decides that these locals already effed around. It's now time for them to find out. We then see that both Glaywin and Bel Rios are incredibly skilled fighters. Even after years of indentured servitude, Bel Rios seems to be able to handle himself pretty well, making me look back and wonder how it would have gone down had he felt like picking a fight with Brother Day back in the throne room when he was taunted. Glaywin is not happy that Bel started the fight without first giving him the signal, and Bel doesn't give a flying what about his willingness to fight, telling Glaywin to just shut up and walk. We then switch back to Terminus with Holber Mallow, Brother Constant, Polly, and Director Seth all approaching the vault. Holber is rightfully freaked out that his name is written on the side of the vault, especially after he sees what happened to Warden Yeager when he suddenly gets sucked into the vault without warning. Constant, Polly, and Director Seth all walk into the vault to follow after Holber, and we learn that the vault is freaking weird. Like, the vault is humongous on the inside, and time passes differently while they're in there. They find Holber and he tells them that he's been wandering inside the vault for 2 days, while it's only been 2 minutes for Polly and Constant. They begin exploring inside the vault with what sounds like whispers everywhere. But we don't actually see anyone else in the vault. Polly says he hears music and they continue exploring. After what seems like a long walk, they finally have an idea of where the music is coming from, and they come across what appears to be a living area when they get approached from behind by the vault version of Harry Seldon. Now, we're going to have to give the two Harrys identifiers because this can get confusing. To make things simple, I'm going to call this guy Harry Black since he likes to dress in all black. What's interesting is that this Harry knows their names before they even introduce themselves, with Harry greeting director Cermak by name. Also, he seems a little more cynical, dicky, mean. I mean, he throws Cermak some low-key shade when he greets him and says, "You look like you built yourself a mountain to stand atop with such a fine suit as well." Sure, yeah, this could be a Greek god reference with director Seth's haircut, but either way, it does not seem like it was an outright compliment toward the dude. Before Harry Black can finish that thought, he's interrupted by Brother Constant, who diffuses that moment by introducing herself. Harry Black comments on how the FANdation has entered its religious phase at the sight of Constant's robes, and greets her like an old-school friend compared to the way he greeted director Seth, and even gives her an approving pat on the head for her devotion. We then finally see Harry and Polly meet, with Polly downright being awestruck in the presence of what has to be his hero. Interestingly, Harry Black recognizes Polly from when he was a boy, after he introduces himself, and he comments on how he was just so young yesterday. And is this weird? Like, how the hell does Harry Black know that Polly was the little boy from 130 years ago? First, he's asking for Holber Mallow by name, and now this. Harry Black and Polly talk for a bit, with Polly figuring out that the vault is a 4-dimensional object in a 3-dimensional space. We then see Harry Black meet Holber Mallow, with Holber going in on the food inside the vault that is made of Harry's body molecules. Real quick, these things are starting to add up with Harry Black. First, he killed Warden Yeager. Then, he requested the FANdation bring him Holber Mallow. Now, he's clearly identifying people and the things that are happening outside of the vault, which is just seeming weirder and weirder as time goes on. I can't help but wonder if the Prime Radiant has anything to do with this. First, we saw Kali give Harry White a new body without explanation, and I can't help but wonder if Harry Black's knowledge of the outside world and his change in demeanor have anything to do with her. Let's put that in the back of our minds for now, but I think this might be something we'll revisit later. Harry Black then says something super interesting when he says he heard Holber during his wanderings and his adventures. Harry Black continues to explain how he's going to need everyone to prevent a war. We then switch back to Bel, Rios, and Glaywin carrying the supplies that they needed to meet up with their informant. They finally make their way to a house by what appears to be a coast, and as they approach the home, they get ambushed by someone with a rifle pointed at them from behind. Bel and Glaywin introduce themselves and state that they're here for information about magicians. The guy holding the gun denies knowing anything about any magicians when Bel Rio says that secret password by saying, "Patrician, the magicians I'm concerned with hail from beyond the frontier guards, where the stars are scattered thinly." And yep, now we know why the episode is named this. The guy asks to be called Dewsum and walks Bel and Glaywin into his home. Glaywin warns him that they had a run-in with the locals, so they're gonna have to keep this brief. Dewsum explains he's been manning his post as an informant for over 40 years without anyone even responding, but he's been loyal to his duty. What happens next is a little surprising as Dewsum steps away to fix them some drinks. Glaywin notices that Dewsum is in possession of some books on a bookshelf, and my guy doesn't even know what to do with himself when he sees them. Apparently, books are all but extinct in the time of FANdation, with Glaywin commenting how his adult ass has never seen a book. They hold up their drinks, but I don't think they actually drink anything, with Dewsum just taking a hit of his pipe instead. Dewsum then shows some footage of that scene from episode 2 with Brother Constant putting on her magician show for the locals. Belle Rios notices that she has a personal aura and begins asking if the magicians mention the FANdation, with Dewsum confirming so with some footage. Belle then asks about the vault, and Dewsum tells him that the rumors are that it contains the spirit of the late Harry Seldon, with Glaywin commenting that evolutionary AI was banned centuries ago. Now, this is something that feels like that they just snuck in something really, really important, as it feels like we have at least 3 evolutionary AIs on the loose right now, with Harry Black, Demerzel, and Kali. Dewsum continues snitching, and even shows that the FANdation is able to make jumps in space with their own whisper ships. An alarm then goes off, with a whole militia of people banging outside Dewsum's door to get their hands on Belle and Glaywin. Dewsum pushes a bookcase and tells Belle and Glaywin to use his secret exit. And before they go, please, shoot him in the head. Belle is just as thrown off as we all are, but after Dewsum tells him that the pipe he smoked earlier was already poisoned, so he's going to die anyway, it makes it a little bit more easier for Belle to oblige and make his death a little bit more dignified. Belle goes Terminator mode and pulls the trigger before they head up the stairs and out the secret exit. They make their way to the supplies that they were carrying, which we find out is actually some sort of flying escape teleport thingy that shoots them into the sky like bullets on a railgun. We then switch back to Harry Black inside the vault, and he's being a gracious host and offering the team he's assembled a drink. Oddly, Harry fixes a drink for everyone but himself. Polly then notices the prime radiant on Harry's desk and also mentions how Salvor Harded took that thing with her over a century ago. So how does Harry have it? Harry even comments on Polly's curiosity and... Hold on, real quick. How smart is Polly? I know this is a futuristic society, so people are probably more educated, but the fact that he figured out the whole 4D object and a 3D space thing, and now when Harry explains how he has the prime radiant, Polly is the one who mentions how it's an object that can exist in 2 places at once. It just feels like the show is hinting that he's a lot smarter than we probably know. Harry then explains his plan, telling the group that Polly and Constant need to go to Trantor and open diplomatic relations with the FANdation, with the goal to delay the war as long as possible. Harry asks if they've developed jump ships to travel, and when Seth confirms, he advises them not to use them to go to Trantor. But how does he know these people's names but needs confirmation on what technology they have? If you haven't been able to tell, Harry Black is on my sus list. Polly and Constant agree to take on the mission, with Harry Black even giving Constant an approving kiss on the top of her forehead, and then throws the director some more shade as a parting gift. As everyone prepares to leave, he tells Halbert to stay behind so that they can talk. Polly lingers a bit and asks Harry about Jaeger, with Harry seeming to be completely unaware of who he was talking about at first, at least until Polly reminds him it was the dude that he incinerated on his porch last episode, and asks why he killed him. Harry stated that as a god, he has to intermittently be wrathful, and asked how long before Warden Jaeger became a problem himself and declared himself the only holy vessel worthy of his spirit. Polly asks if it was divine judgment, with Harry stating, "Let no being presume upon my mercy." And I don't know about you, but that statement right there is all sorts of sus. Didn't Harry White and Kali already have a bit of issue when Kali said she was interested in mankind's future but didn't say she was interested in mankind's survival? Harry Seldon always planned for someone to die as part of his plan, but this just feels cold. Polly walks away but chooses not to drink the wine Harry offered him earlier. Harry Black and Holbert are left alone and begin talking about what Harry has planned for Holbert. Harry states that a passing ghost mentions his name and asks Holber to tell him his story. They talk for a bit and they share that they have a School of Hard Knocks history with their dads. And Holber points out that he's not a fan of Harry's approach with having a whole religion. And Harry mentions how it will eventually go away and get replaced by another mechanism. He then tells Holber that he has another plan for him and Holber is in. We then switch to Sareth and join her rule, her hand man, and what looks like a guard from within the Cleonic Empire. In other words, they got themselves a snitch. Sareth promises him safety from the Empire, money, and more to be open with them. We learn that his name is Markley, and Sareth tells Markley that she wants to know if Cleon the 17th had a hand in her family's deaths. He says he doesn't know the answer, but he promises to help get to the bottom of it. And Sareth adds that she also wants the records from the day that Cleon was almost assassinated to find out how he survived. We then switch back to Terminus with Holber finally making his way out of the vault 3 hours later with the vault closing its doors behind him. Holber tells them that he has a different mission than Polly and Constant, but he was instructed to take the ship on his secret mission. Polly and Constant agree with Constant getting really sad about splitting up from Holber, stating that she was really looking forward to joining that list of Holber's bed partners, and even tells her that she had plans for Holber to be her first bed partner. Holber is taken aback, but seems to warm up to the idea as they continue talking about it. The whole scene is cute and intimate, with Holber even continuing to try to guess Brother Constant's real name. They seal the conversation with a kiss on the cheek. We then switch to see Holber boarding the ship and taking off. But as he's leaving, he gives Brother Constant a nice long stare goodbye from the bridge of the ship. And then, end credits. And wow, that episode was actually kind of great. Like, I didn't even miss the fact that we didn't see or hear anything about Gaal, Salvor, Harry White, and his brand new body on that other planet, and that this episode didn't pick up from any of the cliffhanger plot points from last week. I mean, I am kind of annoyed, but this episode was so good that I can forgive them. What the F is up with Harry Black, and why is he even more of a dick than before? What mission did he set Holber on at the end of the episode? What's going to happen when Bel Rios and Glaywin catch up with the FANdation and confirm the rumors are true? Oh, and now that we know that Queen Sareth is hardcore investigating the Cleons' involvement in her family's deaths, what's next? And is it me, or is the royal doo-doo going to hit the royal fan now that she has a snitch on the inside? And what is it with this show and snitches? There's a lot of snitches on this show. So many questions and more, but that's it. That's all I have for this week. Do me a favor. If you're new here to the movie blog, please consider giving this video a like before you head on to your next video. And also, you know what? Just do it. Subscribe. This way, you can join the FANdation and you can join us every week as we try our best to get to the bottom of this futuristic show and try to figure out the twists and turns along the way. Do it. Subscribe. Otherwise, I'm going to have to check you all later. Peace.